Welcome to the deep dive. You've brought us a really powerful piece today, Chapter 9 of Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. We know listeners want to get straight to the heart of things, so our mission is clear. Unpack the immediate aftermath of Justine's death, how it hits Victor, how it affects his family.
Exactly. We're going beyond just a plot summary here. We want to pull out the raw psychological stuff Shelley puts on the page. Think deep grief, crushing guilt, and that dawning horror of what Victor's actually done.
Right, aiming for those aha moments, tracing that psychological toll. Okay, let's dive in. Victor first. The chapter kicks off with this striking phrase, a dead calmness of inaction and certainty after all the chaos. It's like numbness, but really unsettling.
Yeah, dead calmness. It follows that quick succession of events. It's not apathy, though. Could be shock, a defense mechanism maybe, a way to just shut down from the horror of it all.
A shutdown.
Yeah.
That makes sense. It's definitely not typical grief. He mentions the weight of despair and remorse crushing him.
Right. And it's this intense inner battle, isn't it? He remembers feeling like full of kindness and the love of virtue, wanting to do good.
Yeah, having benevolent intentions. And now he's facing his own deeds of mischief beyond description. Horrible.
Yeah.
It's a total flip from what he intended.
It really shows how his ambition just went completely off the rails. Started wanting to help people, ended up causing, this. Shelley calls his guilt a hell of intense torture such as no language can describe. It's not just regret, it's profound agony.
And it's physical too, right? Says that this state is preying upon his health. He starts avoiding people. All sound of joy or complacency was torture. He only finds any kind of peace in deep, dark, death-like solitude.
That isolation.
Yeah.
It's a pattern, isn't it? He hit his work, and now the consequences are pushing him even further away. He can't stand being around happy, innocent people because they just remind him of everything he's wrecked.
Meanwhile, his father sees this happening and tries to step in. He gives him some advice. Seems pretty sensible on the surface.
Yeah. The father says, isn't it a duty to the survivors to not wallow too much? And a duty owed to yourself because too much sorrow stops you being useful or enjoying life? He's trying logic, duty.
Makes sense from his perspective, but Victor says it's totally inapplicable to my case.
Exactly, because his father's talking about normal grief, loss you can't control. Victor's situation is, it's unique, isn't it? His grief is tied up with remorse and terror because he caused it. Standard advice just doesn't fit.
Right, you can't just be useful when you feel like you've unleashed hell and are terrified of what comes next.
It really shows how alone Victor is. Nobody else gets the weight he's carrying. So the family moves to Belrive, hoping a change of scene helps.
And at first, Victor finds it particularly agreeable, mostly because he can be alone, right? Even though his thoughts are dark.
Yeah, that freedom lets him escape into his solitude, ironically. He starts taking these boat trips at night.
Oh, that image of him on the lake, being the only unquiet thing that wandered restless in a scene so beautiful and heavenly. It just perfectly captures how out of step he is with everything peaceful.
And it's out there, alone, that the suicidal thoughts really hit him. He's often tempted to plunge into the silent lake. Shows just how deep his despair goes. Death looks like an escape.
But he doesn't do it. What stops him?
It's thinking about Elizabeth, his father, his brother. That sense of duty kicks back in. He worries his base desertion would leave them vulnerable to the creature.
So even in that darkness, there's still a connection, a responsibility holding him back. It's tragic, really. His actions have trapped them all.
Absolutely. His fate is tied to theirs now. Thinking about ending his own suffering means thinking about the danger he'd leave them in.
In that danger, the creature is always lurking in his mind. He has this obscure feeling that all was not over, that more horror is coming.
Yeah, that constant dread. He just knows the creature is still out there and might do something else terrible. And that fear feeds this incredible hatred he feels.
Which Shelley describes so intensely. Abhorrence cannot be conceived. Gnashing teeth, inflamed eyes, wanting to extinguish that life. It's pure loathing.
It's a visceral reaction, isn't it? A desperate response to the guilt and fear. The creature is the embodiment of his failure, the source of his pain. Fantasizing about throwing it off a mountain, it shows how extreme his mental state is.
Okay, let's shift to Elizabeth. This chapter shows a huge change in her too. It's heartbreaking.
It really is. She's described as sad and desponding, joyless. Simple pleasures feel wrong now, like a sacrilege toward the dead. Justine's death has just shattered her.
Yeah, shattered her innocence. Shelley calls it the first of those sorrows which are sent to wean us from the earth. Her whole view of the world has darkened.
She says something like, she used to read about evil in books and it felt distant, imaginary almost.
Right. Remote and more familiar to reason than to the imagination. But now...
Now, she says, misery has come home and men appear to me as monsters thirsting for each other's blood. It's a devastating shift from optimism to seeing humanity as monstrous.
Wow. That line, monsters thirsting for each other's blood. It really shows how deep the impact goes. One injustice, one lie, can just poison everything.
And what's really striking is how certain she is about Justine's innocence. She says, I know, I feel she was innocent. You are of the same opinion, and that confirms me.
It highlights the injustice, but also Elizabeth's own moral strength,
Yeah.
And how horrified she is by the deception that led to Justine's death.
Definitely. And she sees Victor suffering too, sees the expression of despair and sometimes of revenge on his face.
And she pleads with him, doesn't she? Banish these dark passions. She reminds him about friends, about finding peace back home. She's trying so hard to reach him.
She really is the voice of love, of potential healing, offering comfort, reminding him there's still good in the world. But Victor, he's too far gone.
Yeah, he says the very accents of love were ineffectual. It's like he's trapped inside this cloud nothing good can get through.
That metaphor he uses, the wounded deer dragging its fainting limbs, it's so vivid. Isolated suffering beyond comfort.
So he tries to escape physically through travel, which leads him towards Chamonix to the Alps.
Right. This journey into nature feels like a desperate search for something, solace, a fresh start, maybe trying to reconnect with who he was before all this. He mentions memories of boyhood trips there.
And for a moment, it seems like the scenery might help. Entering the ravine of Arve, he says, the weight upon my spirit was sensibly lightened.
Yeah, the sheer scale of nature, the mountains, the river, they kind of dwarfs his own problems for a second. Makes him feel something mighty as omnipotence.
A change in perspective. The descriptions of the ruined castles, the impetuous Arve, Mont Blanc, it creates this sense of the sublime, doesn't it?
It does, and he has these brief flashes of pleasure, nostalgia even. But then, as the memory of past misfortunes returned, it all fades. The kindly influence ceased to act. Grief pulls him back under.
So nature offers a distraction, but not a cure. The beauty is there, but the internal wound is too deep.
Exactly. It shows how inescapable his guilt is. He finally gets to Chamonix, exhausted. He sleeps, finds some temporary oblivion in the sounds of nature, but you know the torment is still there, waiting.
So wrapping this up, Chapter 9 paints a really grim picture. Victor's consumed by guilt after Justine's death, pushing his family away, especially impacting Elizabeth's view of the world.
Yeah, comfort doesn't work, his father's advice falls flat, and even this escape into the majestic Alps only provides fleeting relief. The creature, the consequence of his actions, is this constant shadow.
Hopefully this deep dive brought out those aha moments about the internal consequences. It's not just the monster outside, but the torment inside Victor and how that poisons everything around him.
Right, which leads to maybe a final thought for everyone listening. Can you ever really escape the fallout of your actions, even surrounded by beauty, trying to forget? What does this chapter say about guilt's power to just color everything, no matter where you are?
A heavy question for sure, but central to why this chapter hits so hard. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.